Overtime calculations are used to calculate your income from your work hours. CrewCall ships with a set of overtime calculations that are ready to go. These can be accessed via Settings, Overtime Calculations. There is the BCC-FU overtime calculation for Canadian crew, the IAT-SE overtime calculation for US crew, and a variety of options for Australian crew. This is the title of the overtime calculation. This displays the country and if the overtime calculation is system generated or made by you. This section shows how the overtime breaks down. The base rate is displayed here, being either an 8, 10 or 12 hour base rate. For the BCC-FU, a day would break down as follows: 8 hours at single time, 4 hours at time and a half, 3 hours at double time, then triple time until wrap. Australian TVCs can use either an 8-hour rate or a 10-hour rate as a base. Thus, the TVC AU overtime calculation has support for both rates. Different countries have vastly different rules for how overtime is calculated. That's why CrewCall lets you build your own overtime calculations to suit your needs. Tap the Add button in the top right to get started. We'll give the overtime calculation a name and specify what country it's for. Your base rate is set via the single time section. Let's make it a 10-hour base, meaning we work for 10 hours at single time. You can then pick how many hours of time and a half, double time, or triple time you charge. Let's say 2 hours at time and a half, 4 hours at double time, and then triple time until wrap. No triple time? Tap the X button to remove triple time. You can then set double time to until wrap, which will charge 2 times your hourly rate until you clock off. No time and a half? Easy. Tap the X button to remove time and a half. Now this overtime calculation will charge single time for 10 hours and then double time until wrap. The calculations are highly customizable and can be tweaked to suit how you normally charge for a job. You can even set up 2 base rates similar to the TVC AU overtime calculation that I mentioned before. Select the second rate and use the toggle to enable it. This might be a 12-hour base, followed by time and a half until wrap. Now you can pick between a 10-hour rate and a 12-hour rate, with each utilizing different breakdowns, all within the one overtime calculation. Tap the Add button and you will see it appear as a new overtime calculation in the list. We'll go back and set our default overtime calculation. Any new jobs that are created will use this overtime calculation by default. Let's change it to the one that we just created and tap Done. Now when I add a job, it will be using our custom-built overtime calculation. I have the option to set my base rate as 10 hours or 12 hours as we specified, and the income breakdowns are exactly as we spec'd. If you have an existing job which you would like to set to a new custom overtime calculation, tap and hold on the job and select Edit Job. Swap to Job Settings and change the overtime calculation. We'll double check what rate we are using. Let's select the 12-hour rate with time and a half after 12 hours. Then tap Save. Now if I view a shoot day and toggle to income breakdown, I will see the overtime calculation at work. When I tweak my times, the income calculations are updated. I will charge 12 hours at single time. Any hours after that will be billed at time and a half. I hope you found this deep dive handy. If you have any questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to touch base. Thanks.